It's nearly time to say goodbye to the Mark 7 Volkswagen Golf. But if you've got just over €47,000 going spare, you and the Golf might be able to have one last fling.
It's fair to say one of the better versions of the Golf GTI in all the marks since it began in the late 70s.
Meets the 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol Golf TCR. It's got 290 brake horsepower and can reach 260 kilometers per hour. And here in Ireland, it's going to be pretty rare because we're only getting 20 of them.
This, the TCR version, is pretty much a run-out model before the 2020 arrival of the Mark 8 and undoubtedly the next Golf GTI. But this version sits between the Golf Performance, which is the only one you can get now, and the Golf R. It's give or take €2,000 dearer or cheaper on either side. It's got nearly 290 brake horsepower. It's front wheel drive with a limited slip differential, not four wheel or all wheel like the Golf. And you get lots of little extras like these matte finish wing mirrors, the optional matte finish alloy wheels, dual exhaust, one on either side, again not four like the Golf. Or you get a boot spoiler, and in this grey colour it really sets it out. I don't think there's any other Volkswagen that you can actually get with this colour as an option at the moment. And there's blind spot in these wing mirrors, there's lots of safety gadgets as standard on the car. And around the front end there's some more black bits, some splitter right across the front, LED headlights, and the GTI badges are in red as well. There's also an upgraded radiator behind here to deal with cooling, and there's even bigger drilled ventilated discs for extra stopping distance, and we'll test them out later on in this video, and believe me, it's pretty good. And the grey colour in the car, let me know what you think in the comments. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to think a 14-year-old was let loose on the options list in a dealership. Now in the boot, just to show you quickly, in case, let's be honest here lads, in case you have a lady in your life who's not sure whether this is going to work, if you've got buggies at this stage of your life, there is a boot. The seats do fold. It's 380 litres, not the biggest boot in fairness, and you might struggle to get things like buggies into it. I've tried. But in the back, just for this video, just to prove it to you, you can get a child seat in, so it's very practical from that front. There's two ISOFIX in there. You will fit 3 passengers. There's no USB in the back. It's all about the performance in this TCR, so I'm not going to spend too long doing practical stuff. And is there a 12-volt socket in the boot? I know people like that stuff, but for this car, it's all about the performance. Hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. We're going to take a little look around the inside before hitting the road. Where the TCR has it over lots of its hot hatch rivals, and in fairness, any GTI, is the interior. It's just typical Volkswagen class. Soft touches, like look how soft that is. You get the virtual display here, you can put the maps in there. It's pretty much a Golf GTI steering wheel. Now it's kind of an oversight that there's no Alcantara on this, because there is in the seats, there is in the door cards, there is in the gaiter for the gear shifter. Why not there? That would have been lovely. Center point on the steering wheel does remind you you're in something again, just a little bit more special. And the displays here are all good, and it's the usual larger screen that you got in the Mark 7.5, easy to use, climate control, all very typical, all very Golf feeling. And that's kind of a running theme throughout the TCR. It feels very Golfish, and even though it's got different alloys and you can get decals on the side of it, and there's the small, more subtle ones on this car, it's all very familiar. And you know, that's a good thing. It can be a bad thing because it's not unique enough, some might say. The seats, they're not bucket seats, and there's no bucket seat option. They're finished differently, but they pretty much, for all intents and purposes, are the same as your normal Golf GTI seat. Usual storage, again, it's all just normal, as you'd expect. Place for your phone here, but it's all going to feel familiar, at home, and just kind of normal to a Golf user. Is it special enough inside if you tuck away the seats and maybe the bits of Alcantara? For me, maybe it doesn't stand out enough above the entry-level GTI. A few different options you can spec. One option will be to get the glass sunroof. Not cheap, adds weight to a car like this, floods the light in though, and looks good and is nice on the rare sunny day here in Ireland, and it's nicely tinted, so people that haven't got much up here, and I mean here, don't get burnt to a crisp when you have the sun visor back, because the glass is really nicely darkened. If you're watching this with a full head of hair, you probably have never even thought about that. Another option you can go for is the dynamic chassis control. If you want to spec that, and you can get the top speed delimited to an extra 10 kilometers ahead. Interestingly enough, it's the same price, just over €47,000 for a 3-door or a 5-door, which might be more useful. Certainly, I think that's where the next GTI is going to be going. We're not going to see it in a 3-door. But this pure grey colour, it's very, very eye-catching. You're going to do 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, and the grip in it is really, really good on twisties, on bends, on wet surfaces, on tarmac like this. It just wants to keep on going for you. For that perspective, you're going to be wondering at this stage, well, is it worth the extra £2,000, or should I just go that extra bit and get the Golf? Or, well, it's time to jump into it, take it for a bit of a rally, legally of course, and get behind the wheel of this beautiful looking Golf TCR. And thanks to the lads and Frank Keane who gave me this for the weekend to do a review on it as well. Right, let's get going. Pulls nicely, very nicely. It's still slightly different in the delivery and the punch compared to the Golf R though. I don't know how, like, obviously you can feel there's more pull towards the front of the car that is not there in the Golf R. That's fair enough. When you slap it into sport mode, you definitely notice it in the steering, which gets much heavier. The grip around the corner is so impressive for a front wheel drive. You know, when you go back to things like the Mark V GTI, you just wouldn't have been able to do that. It's amazing how in sort of 10 years or so, technology, I mean, I know limited slips always existed then, but just the amount of power you can get into a hot hatch now, a front wheel drive hot hatch, is fairly impressive. You do get eco mode as well. Obviously the comfort one is there. That's probably the one that you'd use around town. In sport mode, you're going to be, you know, in too high a gear or the wrong gear or whatever. And then there's the individual mode, which you can use to set up yourself. And if you have dynamic chassis control, you can fiddle with that as well. So you can customize it pretty nicely actually. Those brakes really work as they should. It brings the car nicely to a halt as quick as you can. So ultra confident in that sense as well. And it loves the corners really. Like you can leave something very, very late and just fly it around like that. Now, the 19-inch alloys, they do make things firmer. You go over a bump or the wrong pothole and you are going to feel it in the car. But trade-off in how this thing handles it, it's about 5mm lower again than a GTI Performance. This road is like, it's what these cars are for. It's progression that you can make around this kind of tarmac and stuff. It's absolutely phenomenal, and the brakes are super good. Wow. Bit of engine noise, added noise, you know yourself, but you can turn that off, and it still has a nice engine note to it, even with all the fancier settings turned off. It's an impressive piece of kit. I don't know, like it's not as raw as the Civic Type or not as raw as the Megane, but it's more refined. The interior is obviously nicer. It just depends what you want from it. Do you really want something that's very, very raw and It's like bouncing every time. I remember in the Civic Type R that I had, I was driving through Raheny one Sunday morning, wasn't going fast, but the exhaust is so noisy on it that I had a man inside the road like waving his arms to slow me down. There's nothing more frustrating, particularly when you actually, like I was doing 30 kilometers an hour or something. So they all kind of have different pros and cons to them. The Golf will probably always, forever be the best all-rounder for so many reasons, but that doesn't always mean it's the right answer for you. It's just, this is going to be so unique, and there's just going to be none. Like, Ireland's getting 20 of them, so it's not going to be a car that people are going to see. It turns heads everywhere. The handling, like, is really impressive, but again, it's just priced so close to the Golf 4. But again, chances are you're driving in Dublin every day, you'll spot a Golf 4 or 2 maybe. You're not going to see these, so it does have that extra bit of exclusivity into it, but very close in price to the GTI Performance below it, and very close to the Golf 4, which has the 4-wheel drive, which maybe in Ireland and our lovely rainy roads is kind of more interesting. But I think this, obviously the roads are drier today, but I think overall this would be able to cope with the limited slip in the wet, because it grips so well. So yeah, if you're in the enviable position from where I'm sitting and you're able to kind of be thinking about one of these, have a look. Yeah, like it. Thanks for watching.